Looks to come inside and find one, a goal, and find the back of the net for Perth.
And the Azzurri have come back from 2 goals down to tie it up.
Cue the celebrations for the Azzurri.
Yeah, welcome. Episode 13 of the Perth SC Podcast. Great to have you with us and on board once again. I know I say it every single week, but what a big eventful week it has been for the Perth Soccer Club. A relieving week, I think it's fair to say. We'll get into all that stuff very, very shortly. Some special guest, Federico Achilli. He's going to jump on board following that massive win for the Azzurri on Friday night. It was a big crowd and an even bigger result, which we'll get into very, very shortly. Also, I'm sure you've noticed all of the fantastic weekly photos that go up all over the Perth SC website and social media channels and everywhere else. Well, we're going to speak to the man behind the other side of the lens, club photographer Rob Lizzi will jump on board. We'll chat a bit of football, we'll chat a bit of photography and this, that and all the rest. So looking forward to hearing Rob's story. As always, a big reminder to make sure you tell all your friends, tell mum and dad, tell Nana about the Perth SC podcast. And looking forward to having them on board as well. Reminder that you can get it, of course, through Spotify, through Apple. You might have to set it up for Nana or someone else. But make sure they can listen in to what is happening around the Perth Soccer Club on a weekly basis. Make sure you give a nice good review all over wherever you get your podcast to. That always helps us out. Right, let's have a look at the results for the weekend. What a fantastic night, and as mentioned, an even better result for the Azzurri men on Friday night. Absolute backs against the wall performance against Fremantle. Of course, part of the rebirth of the Dorsonia Cup. Fantastic to see plenty of ex-players from both clubs get involved with that. So a big thank you and congratulations to Tony Estrano and everyone associated with Fremantle City. Great to have them back in the top flight, and fantastic to renew old rivalries from days gone by as well. Of course, there was goals to Jamie McNellis. What a cracking header that was. And you've got people on their feet, especially the Azzurri Army down there at Dorrien Gardens on Friday night. And David Ninkovic, cheeky. I'm not too sure what was going on there, whether he was trying to take some maybe a few seconds off the clock or maybe he was just being a little bit cheeky as well. I'll have to ask him in the week what was actually going on there. We might ask Fed that a little bit later on as well. But I think the most impressive thing was just the grit that was shown. Backs against the wall, as mentioned. And, it was outstanding to see, even when Fremantle came at them a little bit later on in the show. So, fantastic there. It was great to see Zaid Farrow return for Perth, as well as the inclusion of Sam Pollard, who joined in the transfer window. And it was led beautifully, again, to mention David Ninkovic, who had an outstanding game in a more central role, and Fetty and Frank at the back anchoring that defensive stocks beautifully as well. Big congratulations to everyone, Kenny and the team, for that. What it does mean, of course, is the result compounded with other results, which we didn't know at the time, it must be said, means that Perth have staved off the threat of relegation, which would have been the club's first in their history. So fantastic stuff there, and certainly looking forward to it being onwards and upwards for the Azzurri from here. Other results across the weekend, once I've got through that. The 18s managed to squeeze their game in with a 5-0 win over Fremantle, as did the 20s with a 3-0 win before the rain and, the heavens opened. So we didn't get too much football later on the Saturday, unfortunately. It caused a bit of havoc for the women's fixtures, which will likely be played over the next week or so. So keep an eye on all of the social media channels to make sure that you can keep up to date with what is happening with those rescheduled fixtures. Right, that's the way it looks. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come out the other side with our first special guest, Federico Achilli, to join us next. Back to the Perth SC Podcast. As mentioned a little bit earlier on, it was a big Friday night, and obviously with everything else going on and a few other results across the league, it's a fair bit of relief around the club at the moment with the Azuri men securing their survival in season 2024, which was a little bit, I'll admit, a little bit touch and go there for a while. One man who was very relieved, he played a pivotal role on Friday night in the big 2-0 win over Fremantle. Federico Achilli is with us on the pod. Fedi, how's things, mate?
Yeah, things are great. How are you?
Yeah, very good, mate, very good. Sense of relief with everything that's gone on over the last few days?
Yeah, massive relief. Obviously, this club's been around for so long, especially at the top level. So if we were to go down, it would have been a big injustice to everything that's happened before.
Yeah. Never been relegated, essentially. And you don't want that spot on your resume, mate, that you were part of a team. But, hey, it's all good now. And, what is well will end well and everything else like that. Mate, what was the feeling going into the match? Was there nerves? Was there a conversation around just what is at stake?
Yeah, 100%. Nerves definitely all round, obviously with the pressure of we've got to stay up, we've got to do a job. But at the same time, we had a lot of confidence going because we know we had a good week on the track at training and we just knew that we can go in, play well, and we can definitely get a result.
It's funny you say that because I spoke to Stroudy before the game and I said, how you feeling ahead of it, and asked him about his injury concerns and everything else. He said, mate, it's been a great week on the pitch and I feel like we're in a good spot heading into this one tonight. That's essentially where you're coming from as well? Yeah,
pretty much. Obviously, an amazing session. All 3 days, we were just so pumped for the game, and we put so much intensity in training. Everyone was up for it. Everyone was competing, even at training. I think we even had to get Kenny to tell us to calm down a little bit. But no, we were all ready to go up until Friday, and then.
In what way did he have to tell you to calm down? Was it just overly energetic, or was there a little bit of, maybe aggression, or what did that look like?
Yeah, obviously with the intensity and with how important the game is, I think boys didn't want to be left out.
Yeah.
So they were just throwing everything they could just to make sure they had or could get on the field for Friday night.
Absolutely. Mate, there was heaps of contributors over the park. Of course, it started off with Jamie McNellis getting his head on the end of one, and it opened it up beautifully. And then a little bit later on, of course, David Ninkovic, cheekily, I will say, and I'm not too sure what was going through his head, whether he was just playing a bit of a clown or whether there was a legitimate, hey, let's just take some time off the clock here. Well, how did you guys see it and what's been spoken about?
Yeah, I was actually glad he stopped the ball and didn't kick it in because obviously we had that minute after the goal went in where we had to defend, make sure we kept a clean sheet. But no, we're all glad he took some time off there. What actually surprised me was I didn't even know the goalkeeper would come up for the corner. So obviously we're in the corner. I've marked my man. I've stared at the ball, ready to attack it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I actually ran past their goalkeeper going after Diddy, realising that, it was in our box. And
empty net.
Yeah, it was an empty net. So, but no.
I want to take you inside there for a second because you don't see it very often if a team's, just throw hell for leather, they'll pull the keeper up and just see if they can get something. Every now and then it kind of comes off. Most often than not, it doesn't. Does that change the way that you defend that corner?
Slightly. It might just mean you might drag an extra body back just to help defend the corner.
Sure.
But it doesn't change too much.
Yep.
It just means more people marking and probably less zonal players.
Yeah.
But overall, there's not really much change.
What was said following that? Actually, let's start again. What was said by Kenny before the match and then after the match? Was there much said?
Well, before, it was pretty much, these are your jobs.
Yep.
Do it. Or we've got other people that can come in and do it for you. Simple as that. To be fair, he put a bit of pressure on the players. And we all, I think we can safely say we all stepped up to that and played well. And then afterwards, obviously, because we played Friday night and Glory was yet to play, it's not over yet because obviously if Glory get some sort of result, they're still in it.
And obviously you get that result, but you pile the pressure back on Glory and say, hey, what have you guys got to come up with now?
Yeah, that's right. And then obviously last night, Sterling came up good for us. So obviously it was a massive relief after last night's result. But we still want to make sure we finish strong. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk about that in a quick second. So you watched the Glory match, mate. How were the nerves when Glory were up 2-0?
Oh, terrifying. I was with the women's and Briggs had put out a phone and going, Glory up 1-0. And I was like, oh no. So I had the phone in the car on the way home and I saw 2-0. I'm like, we're going to have to do it all over again. But then Sterling came through and then we all just relaxed. We're having a laugh on the group chat and everyone just feels much relieved.
The response from the week before, I think it's fair to say, and I think you'll admit there was a bit of a poor showing at Bayswater because that was another opportunity that you really had to put the whole league at rest, if you like. Is that where the response came from for Friday night?
Yeah, 100%. We were really disappointed after the Bayswater game because obviously the first 25 minutes of that game we were all over them. And then unfortunately after that first goal, we just seemed to have not quite given up, but just went into a shell. And knowing that we can beat teams and knowing we can outplay them, I think that just gave us the extra confidence for Friday night. And
yourself, mate, how did you see your own performance across the weekend?
I thought it was good. I wouldn't say it was perfect or great, but I think as a team we just were on point.
We've spoken about. You played that centre back role alongside Frank, and we'll talk about Frank in a quick second. But do you find? And I think I've asked you this before. Do you prefer that right back? Do you prefer being a little bit more central?
Definitely centre back. Obviously, right back was a new position for me this year, so it's taken me a little bit of time to actually go into it. And obviously, with the new style of play that Kenny brought in, pretty much restarted the whole process. So I was pretty much learning from scratch how to play that role. But centre back's a position I've played even as a junior, so it's something that I've understood for many years now.
And it's obviously there's been a little bit of, I won't say turmoil, but there's been a lot of changes with that centre-back position. It's been yourself or it's been Frank or Harley's been in there, Ben Stroud's been in there. I think even Judd was in there at one stage as well. How important is it to just have that stability, do you feel, so you can build that cohesion?
Yeah, obviously the partnership, and probably it started from when we played against back out of that big 5-0 win. Obviously we played together there. We got a great result, and I think Kenny saw that and just thought, this is the partnership we need. Obviously, two people, loud, strong at the back. Obviously, Harley and Stroudy do a great job there as well when they're on. I think it might help when you can speak the other person's language. So obviously, on the field, not many people actually can hear it from outside, but me and Frank always speaking a bit of Spanish.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we actually, no one can understand what we're either saying or what we're actually planning on doing. So that kind of helps as well.
Yeah, wow. Take us in your relationship with Frank. Outside of football, you guys knock around a bit?
Obviously, during the season, not so much, obviously.
Yeah.
We try to do what we can. Obviously, we hang out quite a bit. Obviously, his partner obviously is a footballer as well on the women's side. So obviously, we see a lot of each other over the week and we catch up. But yeah, most of the time it's just at training, obviously, just because in season you don't want to do too much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mate, you got a bit of a knock on the weekend. We spoke about that off air. A bit of a stomp on the hand. How's it all feeling?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, at the time, quite numb. Couldn't actually feel my arm for most of the second half. But it's all good now. Nothing wrong.
Yeah, beauty, mate. It's all ticking along nicely. Of course, there's still a couple of games to go. Survival is secured, but I guess you want to finish the season on a high. Red Star this week. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Same as Friday night. Really confident. Obviously, last time wasn't a great showing, but we were providing chances. We were playing decent football. So if we can build from that, I reckon we got a good shot.
Yeah. Looking forward to that one all happening up there at ECU campus on Saturday afternoon. So very much looking forward to that. And I guess we'll eventually be it might not be a dead rubber for Perth Glory because they might still be at the hands of automatic relegation depending on other results. So they're likely to come out at you the last game of the season as well.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, out of from football, I've got players from Inglewood that I'm mates with, and they're asking us and Western Knights to do them a favour and hopefully get them up into that 11th spot, into the playoff spot.
Yeah, it's going to be an intriguing end of the season. I tell you what, as a fan and as someone who watches football, I really like the system that Football West has brought in. The kind of one automatically goes and then there's a playoff. There was the tremendous playoff last year where Fremantle, of course, beat Sorrento to come up and drop Sorrento there last year. So it's not something as a player you probably want to be involved with unless you're coming up. But I tell you what, from a spectacle and I guess a football purist point of view, they are really exciting, the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously being in that position isn't great, but then at the same time, it gives you a little bit more hope, saying, all right, we're not relegated yet, we can still maintain it. So even if you do get stuck in that spot, you can still hopefully save yourselves. So it's definitely better than automatic relegation.
I think it just adds a little bit to the postseason as well and gives teams maybe just that little bit more to play for. I think it's brilliant the way that they've done that as well. Fed, let's talk about the women. Of course, your role as assistant of the women's team. Unfortunately, the league title slipped away now with Red Star claiming it on the weekend. What are your feelings surrounding that? Of course, a little bit of disappointment.
Yeah, we're obviously disappointed we didn't get something from it, but then you look at the team, you look at this season, it's a complete new team, complete rebuild. So to achieve what we have at the moment is probably well beyond expected. Obviously at the start of the season there was a little bit of doubt on what the performance was going to be like, if we were going to maintain a team, and then we got all these new signings and they were just exceptional all year.
I spoke to Baxter last week, a fantastic conversation. If you haven't had a listen yet, go and have a listen to that because it speaks about her journey all the way from Dunsborough to here to Dorrien Gardens as well. So it's a fantastic chat. But we spoke a little bit about what makes Red Star just so good. And a difficult opponent, it must be said. They're certainly the cream of the crop. I think it's 3 league titles in a row now. Carlos is an outstanding coach, but I think what stands out is just about every women's game I go to, Carlos is there doing his homework. I mean, they're a finely tuned machine, Freddie, aren't they?
Yeah, and obviously, unlike us, they've been around each other for a few years, so I think that's a big help. But yeah, when the coach does his homework and can prepare the team well, I think is a massive advantage. Obviously, we've tried to do as much homework as we can, and to be honest, I'm as surprised as you. I don't know how he gets around to all these games.
There's a few doubles out there.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. But yeah, I think them gelling as a team over the few years and having such a great coach, just a massive advantage to them.
Yeah, and a great pedigree, of course, from the old Northern Redbacks, which they were just solid as well before they became Perth Red Star. There's still 2 matches to go, plenty to play for. Well, there'll be 3 matches now, I think, because of that replay. How much of I won't say banana skin, but how does it make things a little bit tricky as well as, you guys still want to finish in a solid second and then go into the top 4 cup on a real high?
Yeah, I mean, even if we don't get the result, I don't think much will change on the table, even if Balcutta go up. But obviously we want to build a lot of confidence because obviously straight after we've got the cup final and then we'll head into the cup 4. So we want as much confidence as we can heading into that because it could be potentially Red Star 3 times in a row depending on how results go. And
you've beaten them earlier in the season. So, I mean, there must be that in the back of your mind to say, hey, we can actually do this.
Yeah, 100%. I think that was just an outstanding performance from that 4-3 win. And yeah, the girls are super excited, but just got to make sure we keep our heads cool, calm, and make sure we get the job done before then.
There's a little bit going on in the background, Fed, it must be said. Of course, A-League W is starting to ramp up. Players starting to get picked or get in the eyes of the coaches in the A-League W system to get picked. Is there no real distractions there at the moment?
No, not at the moment. All the girls, we made sure the girls have mentally prepared for what they need to do. Obviously, we've made it clear that what happens there, worry about it in your own time when you're here. Make sure you're focused and ready to go, and they've done that superbly so far.
Yeah, brilliant. Game this weekend. Who are we up against this weekend? It is Murdoch, okay, and that one is happening down at Murdoch, so looking forward to that. Check your local guides, as they say. What are your thoughts heading into this one?
Definitely confident. Definitely something we can get a big result from. Obviously, we want team success, but at the same time, we're encouraging a lot of individuals to get their individual accolades. So we want to make sure that we're ready and we can obviously compete. It's always going to be tough down at Murdoch. Obviously, their pitch isn't obviously as big as what we have here at Dorrien. So defensively, they're very strong there, but we've been preparing pretty well, so I think we're ready.
You've had a couple of little changes. Of course, Lily Bailey's headed off to the US, so Stacey's come back in and, fitted in seamlessly.
Yeah, I think that's the depth that we've been given in the team. Obviously, we've had a couple of injuries going around. Yep. Lily obviously leaving, Jess Flannery, unfortunately, with her. But the girls that have come in and stepped in have just been exceptional.
I have to ask the question because just back on the A-League W, it looks like there'll be a big WA flavour, which is fantastic. I think it's what we all want to see is our WA talent given the opportunity to rise to the very top. But one name that keeps on coming up is Ella Lincoln. Obviously, in your eyes, is it worth a trial or a shot or a chance at that next level?
Yeah, I mean, I believe pre-season she was a trainer with them. Brilliant. So obviously I haven't actually spoken to them much about that, so I don't know how the whole process works, but hopefully she gets some sort of opportunity in this upcoming season with them. Yeah,
very much looking forward to seeing Ella and the rest of the talent in the NPLW team shine throughout the rest of the season. Looking forward to a big final, of course, the Top 4 Cup to come and the State Cup final. Very much looking forward to those, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of support from the Azuri Army. Fed, thanks very much for jumping on, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the Perth SC Podcast. Well, a man who sees the game more probably up close and personal than most of us every weekend, down there on the touchlines, rain, hail or shine, and obviously always catching some magnificent shots, which we see weekly all over the social media pages and websites. Club photographer Rob Lizzi is with us on the pod. Rob, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Rob, take us through a little bit of your Perth Soccer Club story, mate. How did you first get involved?
It's actually goes back to the mid-70s when my brother used to play in the first team, and we used to hang around at the club all the time. And then there was that gap in between where we all grew up and did other things, and then got married, had kids, and one of my sons decided he wanted to play soccer. So where better to go than to Perth? And we signed him up as an under-9s, and that was in 2010. And he played there for about 7-8 years. And it happened to be at a first-team game, Balcatta versus Perth, back in 2017 when I purchased a brand new camera and I wanted to test it out. And the camera was, because I was always taking photos of the kids, their games, to start off with. And I was at this Balcatta game, and Mrs. Morocchi approached me and she goes, "Oh, look, can you send us some photos? Because, we're desperately in need of photos for our booklet and our social media and the rest." And I said, "Yeah, sure." And that was back in 2017, and I'm still there.
What came first, Rob? The love of football, or the involvement in football, or the involvement in photography?
It was actually the love of photography, but I was drawn back to football once I was sort of reunited with football when my son started playing. And my older son was playing for Kingsway Olympic as well at the time. So we were juggling between, Sunday mornings, early starts, heading off to different pitches as parents do every Sunday morning in cold, wet, rain, wind, the rest of it, And my background wasn't actually in photography because it is purely just a hobby. I actually was more of a video cameraman to sort of start off with. And just started taking photo of the kids and, the journey to Bunbury every year for Bunbury Cup and, taking all the photos of the team that he was involved with. And then, he hung up his boots in, I think it was about 2019, he hung up his boots. And I just continued. He went off and did something else, and I was actually had more time to actually spend time at the first team games shooting the senior boys, which has been great. I really love it, every second of it.
Absolutely, mate. And there's some fantastic shots each and every week. I'm marvel to go through your social media and have a bit of a look, and even some of those action shots are just unbelievable. But you've seen some pretty good times at the Perth Azuri, mate, and you must have shot plenty of great players. Who are some of the players that you like to photograph for whatever reason?
Oh, look, I loved. There's too many to mention, but some of the standouts for me were Rocco Passata.
Yep.
Jordan DeLeo, of course. The goalkeeper Soale was a great goalkeeper, and even. It's just too many guys. There really such great talent that's come through that club and gone on to bigger and better things.
Is there a favourite match for yourself, Rob, or one that you really kind of remember, not only through the lens, but obviously all the drama that played out on the pitch?
I mean, I've at this point in time, I've been basically photographing the first team at its highs when it's won, back-to-back finals, a top four, and NPL Cups, a couple in a row, and to more sort of, well, this season is a very different season. I've really enjoyed the women's shooting the women's team as well, and one of the standout games for me was one this season that the girls played against Red Star, where they beat them 4-3. That game was quality. It was class. It was intense. It was wet. It was slippery. And just the focus on their faces, and that they were almost possessed, and they were never going to lose that game. It was really exciting to watch, and for me to be so close up and personal on the sidelines and just listening to every hit, because when you're on the sidelines, it's the impact when players tackle each other. And, that was a hard fought game. And, and all respect to both teams who played it right until the end. And, it could have gone either way because, Red Star was starting to pick up towards the end there. And, Perth won by a goal, but they also had a goal that was missed. I got it. The ball went in. I got a photo of it, but nobody saw it but me. But, that's the game. On the day, that's how it was called. But, yeah, that was a great game.
Just keeping your photographer's hat on for a quick second, what are you essentially trying to capture? Is it moments? Is it players? How do you frame that?
Well, what I'm looking for, I'm always trying to get that goalkeeper shot in mid-flight and trying to get the ball in shot, the expression on their face in shot, and when they're flying through the air. Again, I go back to the girls' team. People like Ella Lincoln. There's a lot of photos of Ella Lincoln smashing through opposition team defences, and like there's 2, 3, sometimes 4 players trying to pull her back, and the expression on her face is just it's gold. It's classic, and she usually gets away from them too. She's a really exciting player. People like David Nikovic, who's similar, very passionate player, exciting, fast, really quick on the wing and the rest of it. And just trying to catch those guys in flight and the expression on their face, and like you can see every muscle sort of almost bursting out, to try and win the ball and get past their opponents.
And I guess there's also the moments that you capture a little bit from the crowd or people watching on, and some of the expressions there as well. Yeah,
I mean, they're usually sort of fairly close behind me, and I can hear people cheering their teams on, and it all makes for a great day. There was a fairly decent crowd on Friday night when Perth played Fremantle. That was a great game too. There were some moments that I choose not to capture, just because they're a little bit personal. But there was a great moment at the end of the game. I had my camera in my hand and I was about to take the photo, but I decided not to. And it was like after the game was over, and you could hear the boys, singing in the change rooms. The coach Kenny Lowe was sitting on the bench. He was leaning back. He was quite relaxed. Had a nice cold beer sitting by his foot, and it was just like satisfaction that that they got that one up, and that was a good moment. And I kind of felt the same as well. I mean, we spoke after the game, and it was satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely, it was a sense of relief. We spoke about it with Federico Achilli a little bit earlier on in the podcast, and there was relief, and the club's never been in this kind of situation before, so it was a real backs against the wall, but unfamiliar, not only possibly for the players out there, but many that have been involved with the club for a long, long time. Yeah,
look, I mean, it's a long history, 70, 75, 76 years that this club's been around. There's a lot of highs. I mean, we've won close to or up to or past 26 titles which, in its history, which is it's more than anyone else. And in that 75-year history, there's been highs and there's been lows. This is pretty low, but when I say low on the ladder. But, Perth's a great club. It will bounce back. If people are upset or angry about, where we are, don't be. I mean, we are that type of club. And, watch out. We'll be back. We'll be back with force, and it's really great to see a club like Kingsway, who are going to win the league this year, who have been, they're another favourite club of mine because I live just down the road from them. But it's good to see someone else getting that silverware this year. It's kind of been spread around.
Well, of course, and you could get a bit philosophical about where Perth is at the moment, and they always say that character's not built during the good times. It's in fact built when you've got to dig in, and it's exactly what the boys did across Friday evening. Rob, I had a chat to you, and you mentioned that there was one time that you said, "Bugger this, I'm out," and that was due to the weather. It's got to play a little bit of a role in what you do.
It does. I don't actually mind the rain, but on this particular night, it was a catch-up game on a Wednesday night. It was the girls were playing, and it was just, I've never seen it rain so hard. And I got a couple of photos, and then when the second half, when they went off for the second half, I just packed it up and went and sat in the stands because it was just coming down. But I think it was 2022. I think it rained just about every single game. Every single game, I remember sitting out in the cold and the wind and the rain. And I mean, they do come up with. They do make for some pretty interesting photos as well. But yeah, I'm prepared for it. I've got my wet weather gear, and I get a lot of people sort of asking me, "Oh, do you want me to get you an umbrella? Do you want me to?" It's all good, thank you. I'm fine. I'm ready for it. I'm up for it.
Rob, do you have a favourite shot that you've taken, whether it's on the football pitch or away from the football pitch?
Geez, that's there's so many. There are some pretty interesting ones. To say I've got a favourite, there's a couple of. There's one of Gemma Crane a couple of years ago in that torrential rain where she's just made a run on goal and she's put one in the net and she's just walking back, and just at that moment she's turned and her eyes have made contact with my lens, and it was just like that look of game on. And there was another one at Inglewood with Jordan DeLeo just stealing the ball off the strikers, and he had a bit of a grin on his face as he was pushing the ball up the wing. And Rocco Passata, who didn't ordinarily score a lot of goals, but on this one day he scored a goal. And I'm just trying to remember the name of the Australian, the Socceroo that scored that goal, Bresciano.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys recall when he scored that goal in the qualifier. It was actually a World Cup match.
It was the World Cup qualifier against Uruguay where he did the statue kind of salutes. Yeah.
And that was Rocco Passata, because from a distance they look similar.
They've got the same haircut. Yeah, absolutely.
They sure do. But he didn't score a lot of goals, but when he scored them, he knew how to celebrate.
Loves the celebration, Rocco. Absolutely fantastic. Rob, it's been tremendous to have a chat with you, mate. Get a little bit of your insight. We chat very often after and before each game, but I guess to go behind the camera with yourself on the podcast has been sensational, mate. So thank you very much for jumping on.
My pleasure. Thanks very much, and we'll see you on the weekend.
Thank you to Federico Achilli and, of course, Rob Lizzi, who we heard from just then. Just before we wrap things up, let's have a bit of a look at what is happening across the week and the weekend. Big good luck tonight, Wednesday night, that being the Perth SC Metro team. They're going up against Alexander Florina in the semi-finals of the Cup. So hopefully by the time you listen to this, we'll have another team into a Cup final. Looking forward to seeing how the boys get on there. NPL men's across the weekend, Saturday away to Perth Red Star. They'll be looking to see if they can either make a party or spoil a party, with Red Star still very much in the hunt for the title this year. It'll all come down to maybe this weekend. So our boys are playing a bit of a role in that. 20s at 1 p.m, 18s at 11. That is all happening on Saturday. As far as our NPL women go, 3 p.m. Sunday away to Murdoch University, Melville. That will, of course, be preceded by our 21s women in action from 1 p.m. Good luck to all the teams this weekend, and come on, the Azuri.